I used to work at a smaller grocery store. I worked there for several years from the time I was a senior in high school all the way through college. The entire time I was there, I was just part-time. I got to know just about all the other employees though. We only had probably 10 to 15 total employees at once. Because the store really wasn't that big. It had just 3 check lanes, and it would never get all that busy. The store was located on the edge between a residential area and a more commercial area. I liked working there because it was calm compared to the busier and more popular grocery stores. There were also a lot of regular customers, and I would get to know some of them. I was mostly just a cashier when I worked there. There was one terrifying experience that happened that I will never forget though. I was working from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m., which was also the time that we closed. It was a quiet night. Things were normal for the most part until sometime after 8 o'clock. By that point, it was just myself and one other co-worker, a girl named Amanda. She was working in the back room of the store at the time organizing things. Sometime after 8:30 a man entered the store. At that point, no other customers were inside. So he went out of my sight. Some time went by, and I didn't see or hear the man at all. Nobody else came in either. It wasn't unusual, but we were closing soon. So I was kind of hoping that the guy would hurry up. I announced that we will be closing in 15 minutes at 8:45. Still saw no sign of him. When 9 o'clock hit, he was still nowhere to be seen. I made the announcement that we were closed with no luck. From where I was, I really couldn't see a lot of the store, just the immediate area and part of the nearby aisles. After a few minutes, I decided that I should go find the guy and let him know that he had to stop shopping now. I also wondered where Amanda was. Usually when we closed, she would come out of the back room and we will leave together. She must have been finishing up. So I got up from my check lane and started to walk through the aisles. I hadn't seen a sign of the guy since he entered the store. I hadn't heard anything either. It didn't take me very long to look through most of the aisles because the store wasn't all that big. But when I made it towards the back, I still hadn't seen the guy at all. I thought maybe he left without me noticing. I just know that I would have noticed though. The only entrance/exit to the store was to my right from the check lanes. And I would have heard the doors opening. I knew he was still in here. Wherever he was though I couldn't tell. I decided to go to the back room of the store to get Amanda, then we could both look. The back room of the store was pretty typical. And it ran along the entire back side of the store. We kept extra products there. And that's also where we would get all of our deliveries. I'd walked closer to the door. And when I was maybe 10 feet away from it, I felt my phone vibrate in my pocket. I stopped and took my phone out. I saw that I had a text from Amanda. It said, "Get out of the store." I was confused when I read this. But before I could respond, I got another text. This one was also from Amanda and said a man came into the back room and tried to attack me. I left, but he's still inside. I looked at the door to the back room just 10 feet away. Then I turned around and sprinted for the front of the store. I went out the exit, got outside, and ran for my car. When I made it inside, I called him and she told me that she had called the police already and they were on the way. I waited inside my car for about 5 minutes until they showed up. Then I watched them enter the store. About 10 minutes later, they left with the man. He had still been in there and was hiding in the back room. I had never seen him before that day. And I didn't know why he came to our store or what exactly his intentions were. But after he went in the back room, I guess Amanda told them that he wasn't supposed to be back there. He then approached her without saying a word and grabbed her. She struggled and was able to get away from him. He chased her to one of the doors leading outside, and when she left he remained in the back room. If I had gone back there, I don't know what would have happened. I'm really glad that Amanda texted me when she did. In September of 2022, I got my first job as a bagger at a public supermarket. The first 2 months were a breeze. During the end of October, I started to notice this older white Honda Accord that would sit past closing and leave right after I did. One night in the middle of November, I had a late break due to low staff. Since this was near winter, it got dark pretty early. At this point, it was around 7:15 p.m. We do have a break room, but I prefer to sit in my car for privacy. I just got dinner, and had started walking out of the store to my car in the far corner of the parking lot. As I was getting into my car, the same white Honda that I mentioned earlier pulled into the parking spot directly beside me, practically in my parking space. I don't know why, but I had a gut feeling something was going to go wrong. So I locked my doors. Right as I did so, a tall, skinny man appeared in my passenger side window, cupping his hands to look inside my window. I suddenly got this huge pit in my stomach that was telling me to run. But I just froze. I didn't know what to do. I quickly and firmly told the man to leave me alone or I would call the police. He just stood there saying that he wanted to eat dinner with me. In shock, I looked around for any older man in the parking lot to help me, as I was a vulnerable 16-year-old girl. Nobody, not even a soul, was inside. The parking lot was a ghost town. After about a lifetime, it felt like the man started yanking out my door's handle and banging on my windows and failing miserably. He gave up after about 30 seconds, then got inside of his car and pulled behind the store. Even though I was terrified, I got the courage to open my door and sprint back inside the store in sheer panic. I explained everything to my manager. Well, one of my co-workers called the police. Our store manager pulled up the CCTV footage as the police arrived. I sat in horror as the video showed the Honda circling the parking lot, just minutes before I came out. As I walked out, you can see the sedan with very noticeable red underglow follow me slowly to my car and park next to me as I got inside of my car. The police made a report and questioned me. A few days later, my dad got a call with some spine-chilling news. We figured out that I had been continuously getting stalked for the past 3 weeks by a 20-year-old man. We had also figured out that the man graduated from the same school I had been attending and that he had been stalking me through an air tag that he attached under my rear bumper. To this day, we still don't understand or know what his intentions were. But I'm thankful that my gut feeling was right. Unfortunately, he was only given a few citations and 3 days in jail, but I'm glad to be alive and safe. I no longer take my lunches at night, and I always have a male coworker walk me to my car. This is something that happened a few years ago when I went to Safeway. It was nighttime. I don't remember exactly what time, but a little bit later. I stopped there just to get a few things. After parking my car and went to walk inside the store, there was a man standing a few feet away from the entrance door. He was wearing a winter jacket and a winter hat. And when I passed by him, he asked me if I had a cigarette. I told him no, I did not. And I kept walking. At the time, I didn't really think much of it. So after I entered the store, things were very quiet inside. Not that many other people were there, and I went directly to what I needed. I didn't even have to get a cart or a basket. I only spent about 5 minutes shopping and then headed back to the front. There, I paid for my items and then went to leave. I walked to the exit. And then as I was about to leave, I saw the man again. I was in the little area that grocery stores have before you exit. There's a few vending machines and things like that. The man was standing around in that area. And when I started to pass him by, he asked me once more if I had a cigarette. I guess he had forgot that I already talked to him just 5 minutes before and had told him no. Once again, I said no to the man. And he then asked me if he could have $5. I said sorry, but no, and I kept walking. But as soon as I made it out of the store, the man left right after I did. I figured that he was just walking back around to the spot that he had been at before. But the farther that I walked through the parking lot, I could still hear him a ways back. I soon got all the way out to my car, and the guy was about 30 feet behind me. I stood outside of my vehicle and turned around to face the man. There he stopped and just stood there facing me. There were no other cars nearby that he might be going to. Clearly he had been following me out for some reason. I said, "Can I help you?" The man said, "Yes. Give me all your money." I chuckled, not thinking that he was serious, but he didn't laugh at all. I asked him if he was serious, and he nodded his head without smiling or anything. I started to feel very nervous. At that point, I unlocked my car and tried to get inside of it as fast as I possibly could. As soon as I moved, the guy started sprinting towards me. I locked my doors and started my engine. By that time, the man reached me. He first tried opening my door and then got one whack at my window. By then, I was able to start driving away. I left the parking lot as quickly as I possibly could, leaving the man standing there. When I made it out, I called the police and told them what happened. I felt lucky that I was able to make it away from the guy. After that experience, I was nervous to go shopping by myself for a while. I still rarely go at night. When I do, I always try to park in a well-lit area or as close to the store as I can. I used to work at a grocery store. The store was called Cub Foods, and I worked there for about 6 months. I was mostly a cashier there, but sometimes did other things. The store was pretty large, and has just about every kind of grocery item that you would want. We also had a large parking lot that had a big woods up against the backside of it. One time I worked until about 10 o'clock at night. Things went by fairly smooth, and I worked as a cashier for the entire time. I helped more customers than I could count and was kept pretty busy until about 8 o'clock at night. Things then kind of dragged on after that. The final hours were always slow when I worked later shifts. Finally, when it was 10 o'clock, I was done. I clocked out and then left the store and headed for my car. I was parked at the back corner of the parking lot up against the woods. My boss told all of us employees to park towards the back of the parking lot so that customers could have the closer spaces. I walked out to my car in the dark and quiet parking lot. And as I approached my vehicle, I heard some noises coming from the dense woods. I looked, but couldn't see anything. It was very dark, and the noises sounded like they were coming from a ways back inside of it. I figured that it was probably an animal of some kind. I looked to see what it was, but the noises then stopped. A few seconds later, I unlocked my car and then went inside of it. Then I went on my phone. After a long day of work, it was common for me to go on my phone for several minutes before driving. I would catch up on a few texts or Snapchats and then head home. About a minute later, as I was still sitting inside of my car and on my phone, I suddenly heard a noise. It sounded like somebody was walking outside right next to my car. I looked over and my front passenger side door suddenly opened up. A man was standing there. When I saw him, I was shocked. He was somewhat short, but wearing a jacket with the hood up. I didn't get a good look at his face because of how dark it was. Plus, my memory of the event is a little bit blurry with how fast everything happened. The man told me to turn my car off. I sat there, not knowing what to do. I remember that he told me it again. This time his voice was louder and more commanding. I didn't. Instead, I put the car into reverse and slammed on the gas. The car jerked back and out of the parking space that I was in. When it did, the man first started to run after me. When I stopped the car to put it into drive, the man just about caught up to me. The passenger side door was still open. After I changed to drive, I sped away just before the man reached me again. I got out of the parking lot as fast as I could. When I was back onto the road, I called my boss at Cub and told her about what happened in the parking lot. She later called the police, but the man was long gone by then. The next time that I worked, she asked me some questions about the incident and filled out a form. I'm glad that I got away from the guy. I believe that he was the noise that I heard inside of the woods. He must have been hiding out there waiting for someone. I'm not sure what he was planning to do. We do have security cameras, but unfortunately, didn't have any in that part of the parking lot. My best guess is the guy was going to try to rob me or steal my car. I'm glad he didn't though.